Welcome to Educator Circle with Dr. Lisa. As you know, we are talking to different success stories across the nation with how different school leaders are handling this horrendous crisis with Corona, the virus, and how it has impacted the community. And right now, I've got the superintendent of schools from Bayfield, Colorado, Mr. Kevin. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you all are doing. I'm loving and seeing what you're doing. And particularly, can you share some information for our rural educators across the nation and some of the things that you're doing?
Dr. Lisa, again, Dr. Kevin Aten, Superintendent Bayfield School District. I'm a 30-year educator in Colorado and couldn't be prouder to be serving at this difficult time for all of us. Demographically in Colorado, there are 178 school districts. 120 of those school districts have less than 1,000 kids, and around 140, 150 of them are considered either rural or small. So yes, we're slightly above that. We're 1,400 kids, but we are a rural school district in Colorado. This has been especially impactful because I think what's unique about rural education that is different than, and I've worked in districts with 15,000 and 22,000 kids, but what's unique is that the school is still the center of the community.
Yes.
And we love that about rural education. So in some ways, if we hadn't addressed this in the proper way, it's kind of like pulling the heart out of the community. They're missing the sports, they're missing the activities. And we've been able to supplement and put some of that back in.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I noticed is that you have been making personal visits. Tell me some of the things you've been seeing with your educators and how everybody's been pulling together.
Again, if this crisis brings us nothing else, I think it will bring us the power of public education in America. You give teachers a chance and educators, paraprofessionals, principals a chance to solve a problem. In 2 days, we went from a brick and mortar school to having this learning continuation plan, virtual learning, and we did it in 2 days.
Amazing.
Educators in America, you and I both know, Lisa, are the most powerful people when we give them a bit of a challenge. And it's amazing to see that. And I think parents now have a renewed, they love teachers, but now they have a renewed appreciation.
You better believe it. You better believe it. I've seen a lot of jokes coming across the airways about people being excited at 8 o'clock, and at 8:05 they're in a real frustration level. So now your school has been combining strategies. Tell us a little bit about that, because we've got people that are in our audience that have no access to technology whatsoever. So because they live in remote areas without the internet. Now, when they come to school, they have internet, but because of where the children live, they do not have access to virtual learning. So can you help us with letting them know the different combinations of the way you've solved the problems?
I can. And here's the backdrop, the foundation for all of this work has not been, and I know this breaks our heart as educators, is not the education, but what I wrote to our staff is the 3 most important words of what we're doing right now are relationships, relationships, relationships. And to continue those relationships, we're being forced back to a technology that's really not that old. We can use the telephone. And so our very first thing was to make sure that as we were putting online in place, that our teachers were phoning and reaching out to families. And in smaller rural districts, that can be done. And I think that's the very first important step in this, is reach out, see what families need. Sometimes our families right now are in crisis, or mom or dad, grandma, grandpa have lost a job. And we need to make sure that we've linked them up. And so we've had some resources that we've done, some food resources that we've done. We've been linking people up with those. That's been the first thing. And we did that by honestly reaching out to every family. And again, that may feel old school, but it really worked. And we've continued to post things on social media. Most everybody has a phone today. They can access websites. They can get to stuff. We were fortunate in grades 3 through 12 that we have one-to-one Chromebook devices. No, our middle school and our 3rd through 5th intermediate kids didn't take them home, but we did distribution. And we said, any family who wants to come in and get a device, great, come get it. High school kids had theirs already, but K2 was a little bit different. So what we did is we've done packets, kind of, again, sort of old school, back to paper. We've built a website that the principal can and the staff can manipulate very quickly, and they're doing paper packets. We're going to probably do another set next week so that those families have paper. Now, I told you relationships, but the other piece of this we're doing is be reasonable. A couple, 2 to 3 hours a day of work for kids. Let's realize that families are dealing with a lot. So it's sort of this hybrid approach that we've done, both sort of traditional and paper and phone call, but yet if you look in our middle and our high school, we're using Schoology as a learning management system. Everybody's using Google Classroom. We had some of that in place already, so we could continue it. But also we knew we had an internet problem, right? We have families, we still have a few families. When we made those phone calls, we said, who doesn't have internet? So we've done a packet exchange. So if you need a packet, you come to the school, proper social distancing, nobody's there. You take your new packet, leave your old one. And so we've been able to do that with people outline. Plus we're bulking up our internet antennas. So we at our high school, so we can project our internet farther out into our parking lot, so that you can actually drive in, download, get some things you need, re-upload, and then go back to your home, and can handle that pretty quickly. Also, our local public library has internet. And I think in rural areas, that's what we have to utilize. Find those few places, those businesses, those libraries, those schools, and use the internet you can at those places to continue some of the educational activities.
So we see how vital all of our stakeholders in the community are, our churches, our businesses, all of our community centers. We see how vital they are. When it gets right down to it, that is what is key. All of us working together to do whatever it takes. So tell some of our audience here that do not know about Google Classroom. Tell them a little bit about how that works.
Think of Google Classroom as sort of a virtual file folder and a way to be able to do a couple of things. Rather than have the teacher in the old days would distribute the papers, distribute the items, maybe you'd use a textbook. A lot of that stuff can be uploaded and held in Google Classroom so that the kids can access it. They can go in, they can also upload assignments from the Google Suite, and so that they can have interactions. At our upper grades, with the internet, we've been able to use Google Hangouts. So it's just like this. It's just like a Zoom meeting. So some of them are scheduled, like 9 o'clock at our high school, 9-ish o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday, we have math class for now. So that's still sort of a traditional thing that's happening. But in Google Suite, because it's video like Zoom, we can record that. So in online learning, kids can also do what we call asynchronous learning. They don't have to sit and watch the class at 9 o'clock. They can come back and watch it later and do the work.
Right.
And I also teach graduate school with online learning. Part of my doctorate was online. So I've been doing real online learning for 7 years. Right. And as you know, Lisa, that's a long time in this environment.
Oh, yes.
And so to be able to have that kind of learning management system, and then Schoology is just like Google Classroom on steroids. You can actually create quizzes. You can create things that the teachers can grade. We can do lots of grading and work in there. So it's like a version 2.0. And our middle school had a pretty fully implemented use of Schoology. So what that does is it cuts down the paper. It cuts down I have to rely on the teacher to be the sage on the stage. I can go back and look at the videos. I can go back as a student and look at the information in that asynchronous environment that's on my time.
Right. Well, for those of you who do not have, your children do not have the internet, the option is to record yourself and download it, and then copy it to CDs and send it home, and put the units and allow the children to use DVD players for lessons. So that's one of the options. And you can still use Zoom, use Schoology, use Google, classroom.com. All of these options have recording features on them. So thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. What last words do you have for our folks?
While these are unprecedented and turbulent times and have been very challenging, I, like you, believe in the power of public education. I believe in the power of America. You know, what I've been telling people is if we get the relationship right and we keep the relationship going and we help with the learning, I have the greatest hope, in the words of Winston Churchill, that we can look back on this and tell people this was our finest hour.
Yeah. Well, with that, we thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Educator Circle for educators who love their work and want to get better.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa.